Hi, I'm Jerry Ludlow and welcome back to the channel. Now in this session I'm going to be painting this lovely coastal scene in watercolour, taking you through the process step by step, keeping things loose, simple and very painterly. The scene is based on photos from Burghead, a small fishing village on the Moray Firth up in the north of Scotland. It's a great area for painting, the calm water, boats at rest and those solid shoreline buildings that catch the light so nicely. Now what really attracted me to this subject was the quiet mood and the reflections in the water. It's the sort of scene where you just don't need lots of detail, just a few well placed washes and some confident brushwork. So let's get started. So I've done a very loose sketch on Saunders Waterford 140-pound rough paper. Now the size of the paper is 15 by 11 inches, which is a quarter of an imperial sheet, and I've taped it to my board with just regular masking tape. Now the first thing I'm going to paint is the sky, and to do this I'm going to be using lots of water, and the colours are cobalt blue and just a little bit of alizarin crimson, not too much because it's quite a powerful colour. The paper that I'm using is Saunders Waterford 140-pound rough, and the paints that I'm using are Winsor & Newton professional paints, which I prefer to use. The student paints are very well using those, but they don't quite have the coverage, and you do find yourself having to apply more washes, which I think makes it more difficult to let the light shine through the paper. Now the brush that I'm using is a Tintorella mop brush size 6, and I quite like the long bristles on it, and they tend to sometimes go where they like, but it does have a nice point on it. And I'm using lots of water here and glancing at my photograph, but I'm kind of doing my own thing here, just doing what is cloud shapes, and while the water's still wet I can apply more paint, but just don't put too much paint on. Make the clouds when they dry to be translucent, let the light shine through. Just using the same mixture throughout the sky. There's cobalt blue and just a touch of alizarin crimson. Now you can still add paint while it's wet, but don't do this when it starts to dry, otherwise you'll start to get problems. You can see by the light shining on the paint how wet it is. I'm just using a small synthetic brush now. When I do these clouds like this, I do sometimes just put a little bit of water on a brush and put it on the edges, just so there's not hard edges everywhere, just to break it up a bit. Now I'm actually going around the buildings here and the hills in the distance. Always remember that the paint will dry lighter, especially colours like cobalt blue, and with the same mixture going straight on to do the reflection of the sky in the water, letting that sky colour dry. I'm also going to do some of the beach, raw sienna, lots of water, and just using another medium mop, just brushing over quite rapidly, making use of the surface of the paper, and then just putting a little bit of darkness in from that other mix. That's the beauty of this palette that I'm using, which is a John Pike palette. It's a nice large working area, and you can keep these puddles of paint on there, and you can dip into other colours when you're working. I find it gives you so much freedom. And now I've added a lot more water to this area here, and in my sketch I've put a couple of people walking on the beach with a dog, just to add a bit of interest to that area there. And just taking out the excess water on the clouds there, just very lightly touching it with tissue. You find that if you leave it, it can end up with running back, and you get the you'll get the cauliflower effect. Keeping the sky nice and light, because I really want these buildings to show out, and the hills, when we get round to painting them. Going to let this dry before carrying on. Now I'm using a dagger brush here, and I'm using Payne's Grey and a little bit of alizarin crimson. I'm putting in this distant shoreline, some hills in the distance. Keeping it very random, making sure not all the hills are the same size, and leaving a few white areas. A little bit of sparkle adds interest to the wash, and then just varying the wash very slightly as we go across. As you can see with the composition, well, you'll see more when it's painted, that everything is connected in this central area. Just adding a little bit more alizarin crimson. Nice dark mix for the first building on the shoreline. Going to make this nice and dark, really stand out, so I'll probably put a few washes on here. This is the first one. Try when you're painting to just go over once and not fiddle too much. And just using the original sky mixture for the first wash on the boats. Keeping it all nice and light. Just wanted that cabin to be a little bit lighter than that, so touched it with a tissue. You'll find that with reflections, the objects that's above, if it's light, the reflection will be darker, and if it's dark, the reflection will be lighter. So I will be I'll be putting some more washes on these, but I will be making the reflection a bit darker than the top part. This is just a sailing boat. And using the same blue mixture for this, doing the shadow side on these boats. Not painting the whole thing, just the shadow sides. And then when I paint the harbour wall, I'll be going around the shapes of the boats. So not actually painting the boats as such, but painting around the shapes. Just starting to do these other buildings here. As you can see, I'm just really using the paint that I've got on the palette already. Raw sienna. Now this is burnt sienna and a little bit of neutral tint. I'm using a small round brush, bit of raw umber in there, and just starting to do these washes on the buildings. All very abstract. I just want to get some nice marks down here. They aren't necessarily what's in the painting, but they just make it more interesting than just flat washes. Always have an idea in your head when you start these things of roughly what you want to do, rather than think once the brush is on the paper. Now with this, I've done that building on the right hand side, and I wanted to start the wall of this small harbour. And this is going to be really dark, really show out these boats, and make the sky look much lighter. Go very carefully here, just doing some of the shapes that I can see. Not necessarily painting things there, just the shapes that I see. Try and paint things as you see, as you see them, not what you think you see or what you think it should be. Let's go very carefully around the boats. I'm going to just leave a small area of white, which is going to be the masts. Taking my time here. Nice dark mixture. Varying it a little bit. I've got sepia on the palette, and adding some of that. Just another dark. Payne's Grey's more blue. So you can now start to see the boats coming to life that are on the shore. And then I'm doing this little harbour wall. I'm leaving a part of it white, just the top part white. This adds to the interest. And then bits and pieces on the harbour wall there. Not sure what now, but I just want something to counteract the colour of the buildings. Something nice and dark in front. This is where the boat meets the water, which will always be the darkest part. And while I'm doing that one, I'm just going to go across and do this other boat. Just adding some other colours to just add a bit of interest to the reflection. Alizarin crimson, cobalt blue again, a little bit stronger. Nice dark reflection. And darkening up the hull of the boat as well, or the yacht. All of the equipment that I'm using and the areas of this, some of the areas of this video, different parts like the start, the finish, and in the middle is put into chapters. And if you look in the description, you can run through and go to different parts. If you want to go back and have a look at the start, or just go straight through to the end to see the finish, you can do that without looking at the whole video necessarily. But I do recommend that you spend a bit of time just observing my brush technique if you're fairly new to watercolour painting. You'll see that when I put a wash on, that I put the paint on and then just kind of go over once and not fiddle about too much. It's very important not to scrub away at the paint. Just put it on there, let it rest. And if you need to hear more clearly, there is subtitles that you can get on the controls as well. I've just let all of that dry, and going back to the painting now without the sound of the dryer drying the paint off. I'm going over again with Payne's Grey, really making this dark. As you can see, the boats start to pop and really come out with this dark surround. So not painting the boats, just painting the surrounding area. Just varying this harbour wall a little bit, so it's just not one colour. Just adding a little bit of burnt sienna to the mixture of the harbour wall. and another wash over the shadow side of the boats, which is the original cloud mixture actually, cobalt blue and Lisbon crimson, which is a good colour for shadows. And putting the reflection of the small boat at the front. Now there's a reflection from the harbour wall as well, which is going to be quite dark, and that will make the reflection of the boat stand out even more. You can see that the object of the painting here, of what I'm trying to achieve here, is to take something that could be quite complex and just make it much more simple, which is why when you set out to paint scenery, that it pays you to just have a plan, really, just work out where you're going to go with the light and the dark. And how you can simplify things, not things like not putting in so much windows, things like that. Just experiment, have some fun. The worst thing that can happen is that you spoil the painting, have to go again. And now just some more marks on these buildings on the right hand side. I think this store sheds or something. And as you can see on the right hand side there, the roof of the building on the far right, I've just kept a white line there going into the building behind it, which is very effective. Light against dark, dark against light. Just makes the painting so interesting. Raw sienna, nice thick mixture. Just running that brush over quickly. That's called dry brush effect. And what you should do, if you haven't done it before, is to have a practice piece of paper, just run that brush across, and then go on to the actual painting. When you're confident enough, you can just do it straight off the bat. And I'm adding some blue mixture too, so that would just be a bit of shadow, break up the large area of raw sienna. Just put it on and leave it. Now I've let that dry. Now this is a rigger brush that I like to use. looks like a normal brush at the top of the bristles, and then goes down to a very fine point, so it holds a lot of paint. And it's great for doing things like the masts on the boats. But once again, if you haven't done much of this before, practice beforehand and then do a confident line. I always make sure that the rest of the painting is dry when I do this, as my hands tend to go onto the actual paper. Some people hold the brush much further up, but I was told to do that, but I just find it so much easier just going near to the tip, holding it like a pencil. Just bringing these masts in. Don't have to be too perfect. Don't use a ruler. I did that when I first started, and it doesn't look right. Much better to have them a little bit wonky, especially if the painting's very loose. Doesn't look in keeping if you've got something that's perfectly straight. Very eye-catching. And there's a lamppost on the dock side, harbour side, and using the same brush to just add some interest to the buildings. I do like using this brush, and that's just what could be people or just things on the quay side, and then these very quickly these two people with a dog. Just a couple of small shapes. Just make sure when you do these that you don't do giant heads. Keep the heads nice and small. Just enjoying myself here with this rigger brush. I love the marks, random marks it puts in. I have to watch I don't get carried away. Setting a little bit of paintwork to these couple of sailing boats. Bit of darkness in the shadow, using neutral tint, which is the darkest colour on my palette. And just going around adding bits to the boats, sailing paraphernalia, all very quick. And a nice dark reflection line there. And the mast. Just put these distant boats in just as very quickly. And just some stones and shadows and things on the beach. Once again, restraint is the key thing here. Very easy to get carried away. and reflections of the distant masts. Very watery mix. I think I'll just darken up these distant hills as well, just using this pool of paint I've got there. Add a little bit of cobalt blue to it. Want a sort of bluey colour. That's better. And darkening up the harbour wall reflection. See how those boats really starting to stand out now. All the darks around them. Looks a bit pale, that beach there, so part of the beach, so I've just darkened that up a little bit. Pick a few rocks and stones and things there. Quite slow, this part of the painting. It can take us take just as long to do this part as it can to do things like an entire sky and shoreline and hills and things. Making this nice and dark. Going to my old friend, neutral tint, real dark colour. That's really dark. Now I'm getting rid of my pencil lines there purely because I want that to be showing as pure white. But make sure if you do get rid of your pencil lines that the painting is absolutely dry, otherwise you will smudge it. And if it's dark paint, it's very difficult to remove. Just want that to really show through. As you can see, that just about see what would be a light reflecting on the top of the harbour wall, or a path, wherever you want it to be. And darkening up this building at the back. That's raw sienna. And then just a little bit of water. Probably just fiddling here, but never mind. Sometimes I just like to keep things flowing, and also trying to work out when I'm actually going to finish. I'm not overdo it, or just things that need doing. Just want to make that reflection correct. I mean, sometimes I finish the painting, take the masking tape off and just leave it there, and come back next day or two and have another good look at it and do any alterations then. This is white gouache. And another rigger brush. Just correcting that a little bit on the building there, where the sky colour crept into the front wall. Make that nice and white again. Ideally, should have just left the paper, but you do find sometimes when you're painting fast that you do have to make corrections at the end. Just making the some of the whites here and there look a bit better, straighten things up, and there's a reflection of a mast going in there on the dark paint. White gouache will cover dark colours quite easily, but once again, try not to get too carried away. Just put a little bit of sparkle here and there. Just adds a bit of interest. Very carefully taking the masking tape off the paper to reveal the painting. Just having another good look at it. Just wanted to correct a few things that are obvious to me now, weren't a minute ago. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That's the finished painting. Have a go yourself, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.